Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're doing well today. Today is September 3rd, 2020, and in this video, I'm going to do a little something different. I never really wanted to make a video like this. I consider myself to be anti-division. Unfortunately, I can't say that for everybody who's sharing numerology in the truth community. Now, this is going to be my only video on this topic. This is really the last thing I want to spend my energy on, but what people need to understand is that division is half of the agenda. And some of us, apparently, like playing into that part of the agenda. Of course, the second half of that being conquer. Still into the division stage right now, of course. So after about a year of dragging my name through the mud on his channel, name-calling me like a third grader, it's time for me to make a video so that there's at least a reference out there for people who want to know more about this beef. Because, in a few years, will he still be out there calling me names? Will he be sitting behind his monitor and keyboard in his 40s and 50s still doing this? So making this video was not my first option. Back in August of last year, I called into Truth Frequency Radio, to Zach Hubbard's show, to have a public conversation, man-to-man, to discuss why he was talking so much shit about me, and explain why I said what I did about him. And I'm going to play the clip that he's still pissed off about later on in this video to show you that it was pretty light. And for him to carry a grudge for over a year about this is very childish. And for someone who acts so smart, he's dealing with this in a very unwise fashion, using bully tactics. I grew up in high school and I was a short kid. I know what bullies act like. And that's exactly what we're dealing with Zach Hubbard lately. So after calling into this TFR show last year, I thought the beef was squashed. I explained myself, he thanked me for calling in, only to find out like a month later, people are still chiming into my Discord, letting me know that he's still out there calling me names and bashing me. And for the better part of a year now, I've ignored it because, again, this is not why I got into YouTube videos, so I could have flame wars with other guys online. I did this to learn and teach what I was learning. And the reason I started making Gematria videos in the first place is because I saw what Zach was doing, took it a level further, and discovered so much more that I was so fascinated with that I just wanted everybody to see what it was. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think Zach might be the Christopher Columbus of Gematria. While he put himself out there and made some awesome discoveries, sharing them with the rest of the world, something we all owe him a little bit of credit for. Christopher Columbus discovered America, shared it with the world, but he thought he was in the West Indies. And what I'm trying to say is that Gematria is not just a conspiracy. This is literally a function of reality itself, designed for us spiritual beings to have a human experience. And Zach himself, as well as me, we are both part of this reality script that's bringing enlightenment to the greater consciousness. So this video is going to have two parts. The first is going to be the backstory of why there's even a beef in the first place. We used to get along pretty well, worked together on TFR, did videos together sometimes, and that was all moving smoothly. But due to a disagreement in a particular news story, this all boiled over into what it is now. So the second half of this video, then, I'm going to try to prove my point in the language that Zach understands the best, which is numerology and gematria, to explain that just because something happens in the media and there's a numeric riddle behind it, that itself does not mean it's fake necessarily. It does not mean it's a conspiracy. Same thing with murder by numbers. Just because someone dies and there's a numeric riddle doesn't mean it was a murder. Now, is murder by numbers happening? Probably, yeah. Are there fake news stories being published every day? Yeah, of course. And that's part of the reason why I'm also upset with the condition of the world and why I spend so much time working on gematria and numerology. But despite the fact that I'm upset with the condition of the world, I'm not full of hatred. This world has been like this long before I was born. The world will probably be like this long after I die. I can't live in anger about it. And while I hate the condition and want people to wake up to it, that's about where it ends. So let's start with the backstory. Let's go back to February of 2019. The story on the right side of your screen started reaching the media, where Syracuse basketball coach Jim Boeheim hit and killed a pedestrian while driving on the interstate. And as the story goes, there was a car crash on the interstate. The people who were in the car got out, and while they were outside, one guy tried running back to the car. And that's when Jim's SUV swerved around it and struck him and killed him. Now, on one of my videos, one of my subscribers, and someone who I now consider to be a friend, a guy who Zach thinks is dumb, his name is Ed, he commented on one of my videos saying, hey, this story out of Syracuse seems to be legit. The guy who died was a neighbor of one of my friends, and he's really dead. And I hadn't even decoded the story at that point yet, but I thought that was interesting, because at the time, every time we saw a news story like that with a numeric riddle, we were just assuming it was fake or some sort of murder. So I thought that was really interesting. And I was on TFR with Zach, and we were talking about this news story, and Zach was going on about how this was clearly a ritualistic murder, or it was like a fake news story. And all I did was suggest that, hey, this might be one of those examples of organic numerology. Mind you, the very first time I ever reached out to Zach to contact him about Gematria numerology was to share my story about why I got into Gematria in the first place and why the calculator is online today. And I will link that video after I'm done with this in the description below. And that video explains how I asked for a sign one day. That same day, my sister-in-law's father passed away at the same workplace that my dad works at. And there was a numeric riddle with it. And there were witnesses. It was not a murder. It was a workplace accident that was seen and reported by many people. So at that point, I said, hey, man, there's something more happening. And I sent him the message, and he's like, oh, that's really interesting. Cool. So on the radio show, he didn't appreciate my suggestion that this could be an organic event. And he raised his voice and started getting upset with me, which I thought was weird because up to that point, I had always been a highly respected researcher. And as far as I knew, my opinions were valued. So I thought that was pretty strange. And, so for him to get upset at me suggesting this was organic, even though the first time I contacted him was about an organic story, very off. So after that episode of TFR, I wasn't on anymore, and I was kind of upset with how he treated me on the air, so I never really called in anymore after that. Now, about maybe a month later, maybe not even, I was watching one of his videos on YouTube, and I think the channel's gone now because I couldn't find it when I looked, but it was like a 5 or 6 minute video, and at the end of the video, Zach says, don't listen to any other Gematria channels who are saying that everything is organic. They're losing their minds. And I was like, wow, that's strange considering what I've been saying recently. So I texted him when I heard that, and I said, hey, are you really bashing me on your channel now after this thing on TFR? Saying don't listen to other Gematria channels? And he replies and says, oh, no, I was talking about the commenters. But that's not what he said in the video. He clearly said Gematria channel. So at this point, I think he's being dishonest with me. Bashing me but not fessing up to it when I asked him. So then, well, we'll talk about the second one in a second. But yeah, when I called into TFR later in August, he said, I told him the same thing. I said, dude, why did you lie to me when I texted you asking you about your comment in the video? And he said, well, you did say that everything might be organic in one of your videos, which I didn't. Yes, I did suggest that maybe more is organic, and I still suggest that. I still think that. But I never said it's all organic and that we're being intentionally deceived. And that's just flat out wrong. Around that same time period, Zach appeared on the Sam Tripoli podcast. And he was on there for something like an hour and a half. And again, I thought it was strange that he never mentioned the calculator during the show. Because a lot of people tell me that Gematria is a very visual thing. It helps a lot to have the numbers right there on the screen, because if you're just listening to it, it takes extra brain power. But when you can see it for yourself on the screen, it really helps. So, I thought it would have been nice to mention the calculator, not because I want to be known, but because I want Gematria to be understood better. And maybe that's a mistake he makes, thinking that everybody else has the same motivations he does. But that's flat out wrong. Again, my focus is to spread Gematria, not spread my name. I don't care about that. If I cared about that, I would have monetized my website a long time ago. So, this feeds into what we'll get into next, which is the Anarchadelphia conference from September of last year. So let's talk about this and how this boiled over, right? When I first heard that Zach Hubbard was going, I was pretty excited. I thought this was cool. Finally, Gematria in the, I don't want to say the mainstream truth community, but the more robust truth community, bringing numerology and Gematria. I thought this was going to be awesome. So I figured I could finally meet Zach, meet a whole bunch of like-minded people. It'd be a good time. In this story, by the way, this is exactly what I told Zach on TFR when I called him, when I first heard he was talking shit about me on his channel still. And all of this is the same. It's all the 100% truth. So when I looked up Anarchadelphia, I said I got a hotel room for that weekend. And then I went to buy tickets, and I saw that the ticket was $333, which I thought was kind of expensive. So I was like, man, I already spent $300 on hotels. I don't want to spend another $300 on a ticket. So what I did is I emailed the organizers and I said, hey, I have this calculator. I don't know if there's any chance for me to speak there or teach, but it'd be cool to go. And that was my way of trying to get there for free. And even though I do have valuable information to share, it was a little bit of both. So Pat calls me back, Pat being the organizer of Anarchadelphia, and he says, yeah, I know your website. I know who you are. And, we'd like to have you, but we don't really have any more room. So I was like, all right, well, get back to me and we'll figure it out. So around this time, Zach starts talking shit about other presenters, including Mark Passio. And I don't really have an opinion on, who Mark Passio is and if he's... But I don't get why people think he's a shill. Mark Passio's 8-hour lecture on natural law, to me, is required viewing for anybody in the truth community who wants to understand why the conspiracy is playing out in the fashion it is. And I guess Zach's beef was that Mark Passio was on InfoWars, and therefore he didn't want to be associated with a fool like that. So at this point, I'm kind of frustrated because it seems like everywhere Zach goes, there's drama, there's conflict. We remember how the All for Truth website went, where a lot of money was given to these people who ended up turning the website into a flat earth debate community, and the rest of the money went missing. No one was ever able to account for it. Remember back in 2016 when Zach hyped up an announcement and then said he was going to be running for president? I genuinely thought he was trolling his followers, but I think he was serious. Started a Patreon for $100,000 and everything, or GoFundMe or whatever. So anyways, Zach still starts talking shit about more presenters, Derek Bros, who, by the way, I met at the conference. Really cool guy. We hung out a little bit. He keeps saying all these people are shills, but I don't see the reason why, other than they're not teaching Gematria. But he needs to understand they don't understand Gematria. So why would they try to make themselves look foolish by teaching something they don't understand? That was what I got with them by actually meeting them and talking to them in person, instead of just forming an opinion from them from behind my computer. That's not how things work in this world. So, Pat calls me back and says, hey, Zach's uninvited from the conference, and we want you to run a workshop there. So I was like, great, I'll do it. I mean, I was kind of upset that he wouldn't be there, but hey, at least Gematria will be taught. So I don't know if Zach thinks that Pat and I somehow conspired to remove him from the conference. That's not at all what happened. I just wanted to go to save a little money on this trip. And ultimately it ended up with me kind of taking his place, I guess. I wasn't on the panel, but I did speak on the main stage. And that presentation is up on YouTube. So in this conversation with Pat that you're about to see, I did call him out for a little bit of that Sam Tripoli incident. And, I wasn't just going to defend Zach because, again, every time, he's been involved with something, there's been drama and conflict. And at this point, I was a little frustrated. So let's pull up this clip to see a year later why he's still dragging my name through the mud, calling me names. And it's because this is what I said here. And let me pull this up and make sure I got volume.
Through my friend Floey, who was we found out about Zach.
Yeah, and Zach has given me criticisms too, saying my work is too complex and whatnot. And I understand that it doesn't reach the broader audience. But I'm not here to duplicate his work. And plus, I feel like a lot of the stuff we're discovering, like we're still making discoveries. And we're trying to understand the basis of this code. So, I talk about things like, and I'm very consistent in my work when I talk about solar eclipses. And when you have these false flags, look at the numerology of the mayor. Because there's always a very clear riddle there. And sometimes it's the exact same numbers in one numerology from a mayor to the next city at the next shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I might have pulled up the wrong part of this clip, guys. I'm really sorry.
Numbers and language. Anymore.
Yeah, I saw some of it. Okay, so here it is. Sorry about that.
To these numbers and language. He doesn't talk about all that. He talks shit about my speakers and me. That's why he's not coming anymore.
Yeah, I saw some of that. I don't want to get too involved with it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have the following I have if it weren't for Zach. So, like, he saw my work, my first video, and he put it on his channel like immediately.
Yeah, he supported us as well. I don't understand why he did that to himself. He just. I heard him talk. I heard it from through the grapevine. He was like downing on Passio. Then I heard that he was downing on Derek Rose, and then I watched the video. He was downing on me, and he called me 3 days before this, and he was like, "I don't really know if I want to come out to Philly. My house is getting vandalized. I'm worried for my girl." I'm like, "Dude, I just like promoted the shit out of you and put you all over everything. You're a part of this. Got you an Airbnb, ready to come." And he was like, He said on his live stream, they're supposedly going to pay me back for travels. I'm like, dude, you need to be like my ally right now. It takes a lot to put one of these things on. I'm giving you a platform. You're like the OG of Gematria, and you're going to like fucking bash on it like that. So,
I mean, yeah, I like he and I have had our differences about, what we take on Gematria and what we think is going on. He kind of froze me out on one of his shows back in like February. And, and then like he went on another podcast. He went on that Tinfoil Hat podcast with Sam Tripoli. And for some reason, he never mentioned the calculator. Like he could have just told him to go to my website and type the stuff in so people could see it. Would have made the presentation a hell of a lot better. And he ignored my website the whole time. And it's like at the time I was suggesting that one of these deaths was organic. And
anyway, fuck him. So, yeah. So.
Okay. So that's what I said a little over a year ago. And that's the comment that he's still upset about a year later. Calling me a whiny little bitch, attacking my manhood. Mentioning the calculator would have been nice on the podcast. And was it a little egoic? Not really. I don't think so. I think it would have made the presentation better. Again, it has nothing to do with me, but the work. So right after that, Zach makes a video and starts attacking my manhood. Says I'm not a true man because I own a cat. And then he proceeds to bring up details from a private conversation I had with him about a relationship. And then uses that as ammo. And at that point, I stopped listening because it was obvious he was just trying to embarrass me. But I was like, what the hell is he doing? Based on that comment where I made a light criticism of one of his appearances for his work, and he goes and attacks my personality, my personal life, that was pretty messed up. So did my comment that you just saw seriously warrant him calling me a bitch a year later? No, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, Zach did originally draw eyes to my work, and for that, I'm thankful, but it's not like he got nothing in return. Gematria, again, it's very visual. The calculator made his videos far more appealing, and his posts. And he'd be foolish to deny that. And it's funny, too, that he had his YouTube channel for 3 or 4 years before my calculator, but then it only took about 3 or 4 months after my calculator went live when his channel was deleted. So that goes to show you that, hey, it really amped up. This stuff it was too good at that point for them to continue spreading on YouTube. And as far as, my Gematria itself and it being too complicated, look, I'm not just going to duplicate his work. He's always had a bigger following and bigger channel than mine. So, I'm here to find the deeper riddles, the astrological things, not just surface level numerology, because honestly, if we just look at the very simple number alignments and then draw conclusions from them and say, hey, everything's a conspiracy. But if we stop there and don't continue digging and find the deeper numerical connections, then we're being dishonest with people. Because when you look at the deeper connections, you start to think, how is this even all possible? I mean, these people are literally born and dying by the numbers. And that's what we'll look at with Zach and L. Ron Hubbard in a little bit here. So if I know Zach, he's going to agree that none of what I'm about to share is a coincidence. So will he acknowledge that and wake a little bit more up to reality? Or will, we continue this name-calling garbage for a long time? So let's get into the post, because I really want to share this. And again, the point I'm trying to make here is very simple. And this goes back to what I'm saying about organic numerology, is that just because we see a story like this in the news and there's a numeric riddle behind it, it is not proof alone that there is a murder or that there is a conspiracy in place. Because if that's the logic we're using, then Zach Hubbard himself is a Masonic ritual. But I don't think he is. So that must mean there's an organic side to this. And we're going to dig and look at the deep, deep elements here. So I never really dug into this, but a lot of people have made the comparison. Zachary K. Hubbard, kind of a similar name to L. Ron Hubbard, right? Lafayette Ronald Hubbard, a man who shortened one of his names to an initial, sought to help humanity through a better scientific understanding of the brain by giving lectures and writing books. Zachary Keefe Hubbard, another man who shortened one of his names to an initial, seeks to help humanity through a better mathematical understanding of our language by making videos and writing books. Very, very similar energies with L. Ron Hubbard and Zachary K. Hubbard. And of course, both men are typically bashed in the mainstream. Everyone is against Scientology for being for rich people. The mainstream has written articles about Zach, saying that numerology is insane. And Zach has acknowledged a lot of his organic numerology in the past, and this is one of the most fascinating things about it to me, is that Zach's July 21st, 1983 date of birth is literally the coldest day ever recorded on Earth. The temperature was 89 degrees below 0 Celsius. In the language of Gematria, the name Lafayette Ronald Hubbard sums to 89. So does the name Zachary Keefe Hubbard, 89. And if I'm not mistaken, Zach said his dad's name also equals 89, and his mom was born on 8/9. But check this out. If you measure from L. Ron Hubbard's death, 1/24 of 1986, back to the birthday of Zach Hubbard in 83, you get 2 years, 6 months, and 3 days. Well, 263 is a prime number. As we see there, the 56th prime number. Well, in simple English gematria, Zach's favorite cipher, the name Hubbard equals 56. Notice how L. Ron Hubbard died at the age of 74. Now Zach is teaching simple English gematria. Simple equals 74, English equals 74, and gematria equals 74. L. Ron Hubbard was born on the 13th day of the month. Measuring from his March 13th birthday to the July 21st birthday of Zachary K. Hubbard, we get exactly 130 days. Notice how Zach's birthday, 7 plus 21 plus 19 plus 83 equals 130. Even notice how L. Ron Hubbard died on a date, also with 130 numerology. And in gematria, the name Zachary K. Hubbard equals 1300. And we'll talk more about this one in a second because it's pretty incredible. Now, in this post I pulled up from Zach where he mentions his birthday, he also mentions his time of birth, 1919. Well, I found that to be interesting because the name Elron equals 190 in Jewish gematria. Zach's name also made up of 19 letters. And when you look at this number, 1919, this is actually, I believe, one of the most significant numbers in numerology. And that's because it's the Gematria of 1331, which is the ultimate eclipse number. And something I center a lot of my work around. 1,331 equals 1919. And as I've shared in the past, the year 1919 was very significant for solar eclipses. We had the longest total eclipse in 272 years and the longest annular eclipse in 503 years, both in 1919. I may have had those years mixed up with those eclipses, but very significant year indeed. Now this brings us to the number 23. You guys remember this movie. I know I've talked about it many times in my videos. And this video is a true staple for anyone who understands numerology and gematria. In this film, Jim Carrey becomes obsessed with the number 23, and there's a scene in the film where he literally teaches simple English gematria, A through Z, 1 through 26. Now again, are the synchronicities between this film and the birth of Zach and myself a Masonic conspiracy? Or is this, again, a function of reality? Reality being a constant battle between evil and good, light and dark, the continuous manifestation of consciousness. Well, notice how Jim Carrey's full name is James Eugene Carrey. What I find so fascinating is that if he were to write his name like Zach Hubbard, where he only uses his middle initial, notice how James E. Carey has the exact same 1300 gematria as Zachary K. Hubbard. Now this number here represents the number 13. Now notice how the 13th Fibonacci number is 233. And Zach brought gematria to the greater masses. Gematria 233, just like both of these men's names. It's related so nicely. But how about this? When you check out the date that this film was released, February 23rd, 2007, well, look at that. Zach was 23 years old. Interesting, right? Well, in English gematria, Zachary K. Hubbard equals 2030. In that same cipher, Elron equals 230. Elron also 23 in reduction. Now this number also ties me into this. Again, me and Zach, we are two balancing acts of the same energy. One of us bringing gematria to the world, the other attempting to fix our perception of it. My full name in the alphabetical order sums to 203. My birthday, June 4th of 85, has 23 numerology. And it's interesting that when I was born, Zach's only birthday had fallen on the 203rd day of the year. And look at the name Zach Hubbard. 203 in the reverse alphabetic order. Furthermore, my parents were married on the date that leaves 203 days in the year. And when I was born, it was exactly 23 weeks before the next total solar eclipse. And again, I revolve most of my work around total solar eclipses, trying to explain this Saturn moon matrix that so many researchers claim we are a part of. So I ask everybody, what are the odds of this? Again, here we see a clear numeric code, a numeric riddle. We see a thread through this. And by the way, what I didn't even mention is that I was born 23 years after Jim Carrey. So Jim Carrey, 1/17/62. That means he was 23 years old when I was born. And then his film came out when Zach was 23. You see how this all connects? All right, a little bit more about Jim Carrey here. check out his full name. James Eugene Carey. I want you to notice the 95 gematria in reverse reduction. Well, 95 happens to be my gematria in standard reduction. And my birthday also has 95 numerology. Before I started making YouTube videos, there was only one other gematria channel I was watching aside from Zach's, and that was Dan Barrett, who still makes videos. Looking forward to his book. His name equals 95. Worth noting, too, that my original gematria research partner, known as Desi XI, who used to have a blog, his birthday is September 5th, 9-5. When I was born, Jim Carrey was exactly 1,220 weeks old. With the K exception, my full name equals 122. So doesn't it make sense that Jim Carrey would have numerical alignments with the Gematrinator? Jim Carrey equals 141. So does Gematrinator, 141. Now you may notice this was not a match in the same cipher. This was in reverse gematria. And remember, I was the first one to start looking at reverse gematria. I had added it to my calculator because I had heard of something called satanic gematria. And when I first heard of satanic gematria, I just figured it meant it was the alphabet backwards. Come to find out it was the cipher that starts on 36. But I thought, well, why aren't we running the alphabet backwards? That makes sense. If we can play our records backwards and get messages, maybe there's something with reverse gematria. So I started to share some finds on TFR. Then Zach looked into reverse gematria and confirmed my suspicion, said, yes, this is absolutely relevant. So based on that, you could say that my calculator was responsible for bringing reverse gematria to the world. Reverse gematria has Jewish gematria of 1198. My full name in that same cipher is 1198. And when I was 11,980 days old, I found out that my brother had joined Freemasonry. And he did that after getting into the real estate business. Also a little bit after I started teaching him about numerology and gematria. He's always been fascinated by it. So he knows what's going on, but he had to join the club. But I want you to check out my reverse gematria. First of all, my name sums to 130. This lines up with the 1300 from James E. Carey and Zachary K. Hubbard. But check out my reverse gematria in ordinal. 337. Well, 337 is a prime number. Notice there, it's the 68th prime number. And here I am, trying anyway, to help the work of Zachary K. Hubbard, whose name equals 68 in reduction. And just think about it. I was born in the year 85. Zachary K. Hubbard equals 85. Zach was born in the year 83. My common name, Derek Tikuri, equals 83. Zach even launched a promotional campaign called What is 47? Learn Gematria. Well, 47 is certainly a lot of things, one of which being the number of days between our birthdays. Me and Zach, born with our birthdays 47 days apart. And how funny is it that he put the term learn gematria there? Learn gematria equals 61 and 83. You can also learn gematria from Derek Tikuri, 61 and 83. But for my name, it goes even deeper. Not only do I have an alignment with the calendar, notice how my name is 142 English and 522 Jewish. The date 522 is the 142nd day of the year. But in the alphabetic order, this 142 is the reverse value of gematria. Gematria 142. Remember, my name equals reverse gematria in Jewish. And think about what is gematria? Gematria is numbers and letters. Numbers has the same gematria in 3 of the 4 base ciphers as my first name, Derek. Meanwhile, my last name, Takori, equals 99 and 90, just like the word letters. To top it off, on the date I was born, the sun reached 74 degrees on the ecliptic, while Saturn sat at 233. And again, gematria equals 74 and 233. So this is what I'm awake to. I am awake to the fact that we are all part of this greater cosmic consciousness, working to evolve humanity into the next stage of evolution. This is why I'm not full of hatred, and I don't spend hours making rants on YouTube all the time. Occasionally I do rant when it's warranted, but again, I'm not filled with hatred, because if this stuff exists for me, then that feels pretty good. It's not just bullshit happening by the numbers. It's our own lives. That tells me that there's a mechanism working alongside us. We have spiritual guides, so to speak. Some people refer to them as interdimensional beings or aliens. Whatever you want to call them, they're real. They are around us. The level of contact I've had with them is pretty minimal, but it's been made very clear to me that they're there. I have no question about it. The synchronicity I've had in my life proves that. So while this is all happening, again, me and Zach both sent here to this planet to help people grow and snap out of this spell that they've been born into. But I don't think he has that understanding that we're supposed to be, our energies are supposed to balance out into a result. So I don't know how much more clear I could make it. But this is the ultimate truth that I'm trying to bring. Because again, when I asked for a sign from God, what is going on with numerology? Because it doesn't seem like to me that this is all just man-made stuff. God immediately showed me what happened. And for those of you who are unaware of this, let's again look at the post. And this post is on my Organic Matrix page on my blog. It's been highlighted ever since the beginning. And again, I asked for a sign from God, and that very day, remember, this was the day that the Cubs won the World Series. Look at that. November 3rd, 2016 is when this man passed away. The same day the Cubs broke a 108-year curse. And his name, as it appears on the urn, equals 108. He was killed by a giant steel ring which broke into the shape of a C like the Cubs logo. That was the sign I got from God. All I'm trying to do is carry forth that message, something that I feel I was enlightened to. I want to share this enlightenment with the rest of the world. This is a function of reality. And again, this constant bickering about what's a conspiracy and what's, to a certain point, who cares? Let's figure out, let's dig into the fact that these synchronicities are occurring and then try to better understand it instead of just seeing, a couple things, a couple alignments, and then drawing conclusions from it. All right, guys, that is all I got. So thanks to everybody for watching. And, another point I wanted to make, too, is that I'm not in this for money. And you'll see a donate link on the screen. Guys, I've made about $20 in donations in the last 4 months. And I'm not asking for money. I don't care. I have a job. I contribute to society. I'm a happy person with where I'm at. If you don't have the means to donate, don't bother. I'll still make videos. I'll still be doing that. But again, that's not my motivation for this. My motivation is truth. And I just want to make sure that everybody is aligned with that same type of search. It's the best way I can put it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this video. Peace, love, God bless. Zach, I hope we all come around and can get along one day, because this is the divine code in action through both of us. Understand that. Adios.